The portion of God's Word we want to look at for a little while this morning is taken from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24. I'm going to read the first few verses just to set the scene here. Now that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" So this had happened on Easter afternoon, before Jesus had appeared to the disciples in that locked upper room with, doubting Thomas and all of that we talked about last week. This happened a few hours before that. And there are a couple of people that are walking from Jerusalem to Emmaus. We don't know much about these two. We learn one of their names, but we're not sure exactly who they are. We're just told that they are disciples of Jesus. Maybe not in the strict sense of the 12 disciples of Jesus, maybe more in the more broad sense, as though these were followers of Jesus. And we know that they were headed toward Emmaus. And we can make an educated guess then that that might be their home, and they had traveled to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover, and now they were headed back. They can't travel on the Sabbath, so they waited for Sunday as their first opportunity to head back home. They're walking together, and they're talking about all the things that happened that Holy Week. What with the crowds welcoming Jesus into the city, and then the crowds turning against him later on, about the crucifixion, and maybe even some of those rumors that were swirling around now about a resurrection. They had very heavy hearts as they were walking along the road, and they were talking with each other. And as they're walking, there appears Jesus. Almost like lanes merging together in traffic in a time when people walked everywhere. This is about as close as you get to these travelers now coming together. And now they're going to be walking together. You might as well make some small talk. So Jesus asks them, "What are you guys talking about?" And at that point, they stood still, their faces downcast. They were walking together, and now they come to a standstill with their faces downcast. They were sad about something. They were visibly upset. This was not a happy walk home to Emmaus. You know, there's a big difference between the bus ride home after the team wins and the bus ride home after the team loses. After a victory, everybody is all smiles. They're high-fiving, and they're joking, and they're laughing, and they're just having a great time talking about how awesome the game was. But after a defeat, it's a very different vibe, isn't it? People are quieter. They're downcast. They're sad. If they are talking about the game at all, they're talking about what went wrong, and they don't feel great about it. They had hoped to come home with a victory, but instead suffered a crushing defeat. This walk to Emmaus was like the bus ride home after a loss. They were sad and they were downcast. But Jesus invites them, "Tell me about it. What's up, guys? Why the long face?" And one of them, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there in these days?" Right? Everybody knew what happened. This was a very public thing that happened to Jesus. But he still plays along. He says, "What things?" I just love that. Jesus, so unassuming, is just inviting them to tell him more. Tell me what's bothering you. Tell me what's on your heart and on your soul. Doesn't he tell us that too? He invites us, come on, tell me what's wrong. He already knows, but he invites us in your prayers, tell me what's bothering you. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place. In addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning, but they didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. And then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see Jesus." What were they down about? What was bothering them? They said, "We had hoped." Look at the tense of that verb, right? That we were hoping something, but not anymore because their dreams were dashed. We had hoped that he would be the one to redeem Israel because he was powerful in word and deed. The Greek word there is dynamis, or dynatus, similar to the word dynamite. He was very powerful. You should have heard this guy talk, and you should have seen the things that he could do. When he talked, people listened. And when he wanted something done, it got done. That was the kind of person he was. And so we thought that he was going to be the one that would redeem Israel. That's what we had hoped for. We don't know how long they were hoping this either. Were they disciples from the very beginning of Jesus' ministry? Did they hop on the bandwagon at Palm Sunday? Were they believers from childhood, meaning were they brought up in the scriptures and taught about how the Bible foretells a Messiah that would come and redeem Israel? Now they were hoping that he might just possibly be the one. We're not exactly sure what they meant by we were hoping he'd be the one to redeem Israel, but it probably fell in line with the prevailing thought of the time, that the Messiah would be someone who would come and restore Israel to a place of political prominence, that he would restore the kingdom to what it used to be, to the glory days of King David generations ago. We were hoping that he would be able to do that, to be the one to throw off the tyranny of the Romans. But obviously, he's not the one, because our Redeemer is dead. They had hoped that he would be the one to redeem Israel, but those hopes and dreams were dashed. I think that we can empathize with them a little bit because we know what it's like to have hopes that just simply don't come to be.